crest of Ajax is one that is forever etched in the annals of football history. As the pioneers of total football, their history is one of many triumphs, as they revolutionized the game. They have remained as the pinnacle of Dutch football for the better part of 5 decades. A large part of their success is due to their model of taking exceptionally talented young players and developing them into world-class footballers. The practice of cultivating young talent is an endearing quality, and they command respect, as they punch far above their weight. Their motto and ethos were no more evident than in their display at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, against Real Madrid, in the round of 16 of the Champions League, of 2018-2019. After losing their first leg match at home, their youthful exuberance and nonchalance did not dampen their optimism. As the interim coach, appointed just a year and 3 months prior, Erik Ten Hag had inherited an exceptional group of talent and cultivated them into a formidable opponent. Although he was relatively unknown at the time, he was the perfect man to maintain the values of the legendary institution. He steered his squad to a record of 25 wins, 7 ties, and 4 losses until this point, and on this night, only himself and his team had any idea of the run that they were about to embark on. They had escaped a Champions League group containing Bayern Munich and Benfica, without dropping a point to either opponent. And now, in front of a hostile crowd of 77,013, they were about to put on a foundational performance. The spectacle of matches and level of play that Ajax maintained was an exceptional feat for any squad, let alone one whose average age was 23 years old. They would go on to win the Eredivisie with a record of 28, 2-4 with 119 goals scored. Only 32 against, while adding a Dutch Super Cup for the domestic double. Ajax had officially arrived and established that they could hold court with the finest squads in Europe. Indeed, it was a legendary run and a legendary squad. In a year and a half under Ten Hag's tutelage, several players saw their market values skyrocket, most notably Frankie de Jong and Matthias de Ligt, who increased by 78 and 35 million euros, respectively. Such a substantial increase in market value, for such a variety of players, was very telling that a system was in place at Ajax that was something special. Furthermore, the players within the system, and the positions they played, were able to reflect their entire repertoires and skill sets. A domestic double and a Champions League run, until the semi-finals in your first full season, is impressive enough. However, it is consistency that makes the greats. The start of 2019-2020 saw the loss of some exceptional talent and ended in an uncertain, disjointed, and truncated season, with the loss of more core components. It is the mark of an exceptional manager to uphold a golden standard, regardless of the names on the team sheet. The loss of 4 future superstars left many new opportunities on Ten Hag's team sheet, with many questions and uncertainties. However, it provided a silver lining, with the four yielding a combined €320 million and ample opportunity to rebuild. However, rather than splurging on big-name players, as is common practice in today's game, Ten Hag and Ajax made sensible purchases for a new, foundational squad. At the start of the 2019-2020 season, Argentinian defender Lisandro Martinez and Mexican midfielder Edson Alvarez joined Ajax for €7 and €15 million, respectively. In Martinez, Ten Hag had identified an undersized, but dominant defender who was surprisingly good aerially. He was known to dominate his space, with exceptional passing ability at all ranges, making him a viable threat for direct play. Alvarez provided a steady presence in central space. The defensive midfielder had proven his worth in the holding position. Strong in the tackle and positionally aware, his skill set was a foundational platform to build upon as the pivot in Ten Hag's 4-3-3. At the commencement of the 2020-2021 season, Ajax announced that the Dutch Giants had signed potential Brazilian superstar Antony for €15,750,000. The technically proficient dribbler was an excellent complement to fellow Brazilian Neres, on the opposite flank, with tremendous upside. With two traditional wingers, it was an obvious choice to play the 4-3-3, an iconic formation that is embedded within the club DNA of Ajax. The formation is famous for its balance between the midfield and the front line, and the aggressive advantage of having three primary attackers. Ten Hag required players with versatile skill sets to play his preferred variation, the 4-3-3 attack. His faith in his team was obvious, as the 4-3-3 at the professional level requires players of exceptional skill and ability to manage space. The 4-3-3 system is an art, not a science, and each manager's objective is to achieve a balance between his front three and his midfield. The extra attacker comes at the expense of an extra player in the midfield. Therefore, central operators must be able to handle the difficulties of running the midfield while at times, one or two men down. The counterattack threat is constant, as if the ball is lost in key areas of the pitch, the team in formation is primed to be carved up, as oppositional players have acres of space to navigate. The 2020-2021 season provided Ajax Jong Academy graduate, Nussair Mazouari, with an exceptional opportunity. The Moroccan was undeniably well versed in the concept of total football. After an injury-plagued season, the versatile defender saw his value plummet from 18 to €9.5 million. It was Ten Hag who provided the right back with an opportunity to demonstrate his class, as the main facilitator of the breakout. As the leader in touches in Champions League play, Mazouari split his actions in multiple areas of the pitch. He worked on the weak side with Antony in advanced zones. He would venture deep into the oppositional third and assume responsibilities as a Mazzala. With the departure of Matthias de Ligt, Perschers was a sensible successor, and the young Dutchman proved his competency and composure. He was able to facilitate play from the back, in addition to finishing fourth on the squad for ball-winning tackles, with 26. Dutch starlet Ryan Gravenberch is another testament to Ajax's youth academy. The last 2 years have been meteoric for the 19-year-old, who has consistently demonstrated his diversified skill set. Before he has even left his teenage years, the midfielder is worth €35 million. However, given his rapid ascension and demonstrations, it is clear that this will be seen as a bargain in a few years. The right-footed player can operate on either side of the midfield, in deep or advanced areas of the pitch, all while being among the top 5 players on the club for ball-winning tackles. The right-footed player can operate on either side of the midfield in deep or advanced areas of the pitch, all while being among the top 5 players on the club for ball-winning tackles, interceptions, and crosses. With an 88% pass completion rate at medium range in Champions League play, he is a crucial player in the midfield. Fellow Ajax product Jurrien Timber has also been exceptional since he was given his opportunity, at the start of 2020-2021. The defender is competent at all posts on the defensive line. He can aggressively control his zone with agility, tenacity, and good tackling. His rapid rise is due in large part to these traits, with Timber participating in Euro 2020. The artistry of Ten Hag's 4-3-3 attacking formation is in the fact that he played with a false 9, rather than a traditional striker, in Dusan Tadic. Reminiscent of the great Barcelona of the Pep Guardiola era, Tadic could operate as a center forward, left midfielder, and attacking midfielder. The left-footed player was able to take his game to new heights, leading the team in goals, with 22 and assists with 25. His production was a product of his ability to operate in the flow of play. Successfully navigating through pockets of space, he was the primary facilitator in the attacking third, leading in touches, crosses, shot-creating actions, goal-creating actions, pressures in the attacking third and attacking penalty, and successful dribbles. He was crucial for Ten Hag's plans, with his movement allowing for link play in neutral zone, in order to allow for balance at both tiers of the midfield. Ten Hag designated the left flank as the strong side, stacking Brazilian skiller Neres and Tadic, overloading the space with two left-footed players. Tagliafico could provide overlapping runs to maintain the overload on the left, with like-footed players. The chemistry between players allowed for fluidity and easy transitioning between the offensive and defensive phase. The philosophy of total football was evident, as their midfielders assumed different identities, given the flow of play. With width provided by his backs, his midfielders and forwards could play compact, maintaining lines of proximity in central space. With as many as 8 players forward in the attack, numerical superiority was almost certain, with passing options available vertically, diagonally and horizontally. By maintaining lines of players, with passing options readily available, the unit would dictate the speed, rhythm, and direction of play, forcing the opposition to adapt by devoting numbers behind the ball. Ten Hag's Ajax of 2020-2021 was a symphony of movement, passing, and players utilizing space. It also resulted in many goals scored, with 133 in all competitions, including a 13-0 demolishing of Venlo. by virtue of their offensive formation, Ajax had to have an alert and adaptive defensive system. Playing such a high-octane, offense-centric system did not come at the compromise of the defense, however, which is another feather in Ten Hag's cap. The core of his system was comprised of a holding midfielder who acted as a pivot, directly in front of his center-backs, with the trio maintaining proximity. As such, a premium was placed on consistent and accurate passing at medium range. The squad's top 5 passers at the medium range were all defenders, as was dictated by the system. A premium was also placed on his defense's ability to deliver passes while under pressure, as defenders had to handle the reception of the ball while being pressed, diagnose the play and deliver. With his core in place, he instructed his wingbacks, Mazraoui and Tagliafico, to consistently demonstrate their quality as multifaceted players, with each among Ajax's top ball-winning tacklers. However, each player was directly involved in both the offensive and defensive phase of play, resulting in a split set of responsibilities. As one of the most targeted players in 2020-2021, Nicolas Tagliafico was a busy man, advancing up the left flank, with Tadic and Neres. Mazraoui worked with Antony on the right side, and split his touches in all areas of the pitch. With his core components in place and able to dispatch to the wings, Ten Hag achieved a harmonious balance between his defenders. With 51 matches played throughout the season, Ajax only conceded 41 times. This feat is all the more impressive when you consider how heavily involved his wingbacks were in the attacking phase of play. This meant that they played with only 3 players with primary responsibilities as defenders. The threat of the counterattack with so many players forward was constant, and made more potent by the fact that Ajax normally played a high line, with backline support for attackers. Ten Hag played Alvarez as the pivot, sitting in front of the center-backs, who played both in proximity and spread. He is a precision passer, with a completion rate of 88%, with 81% completion at long range in 2020-2021. However, his ability as a ball winner allows him to excel at his position. The 24-year-old is well on his way to becoming a world-class holding midfielder. As the 4th most expensive Mexican player in the world, Alvarez has increased his stock substantially and is yet another diamond that the Ajax scouting department has identified. Alvarez is the first line of defense when Ajax was most vulnerable. In the counter-attacking phase, his ability as a recovery tackler was essential in preventing highly vulnerable situations, with their numbers forwards. He maintained a tackle success rate of 58% against dribblers. He is a destroyer in the midfield, but he is not limited to central space. As a free-roaming ball winner, he adopts the positional responsibility of the zone. Lisandro Martinez, who was purchased for €7 million 2 seasons ago, has developed into an elite defender, now worth €32 million. Although capable at any position, he has played the majority of his time at Ajax as a centre-back. Martinez is one of the most intelligent players on the pitch at all times, reflected by his 56 interceptions. He and Daley Blind had a healthy competition for the starting centre-back position, with Martinez preferred. Jurrien Timber distinguished himself as a standout player, fresh off Euro 2020, in which he participated in all 4 matches for the Netherlands. The 20-year-old staked his claim against Purchers as the starting centre-back, earning more starts towards the end of the season. No small feat, considering the quality of Schurz. By the end of 2020-2021, Timber had established himself as the de facto starting centre-back. Playing with as many as 7 players in the build-up phase, allowed for Ajax to dominate possession, maintaining an average of 58% in Champions and Europa League play. They were able to dominate touches with 8,517 gained with 6,541 against, resulting in 243 shot-creating actions and 29 goal-creating actions. Offensive opportunities were imminent from all directions. With Ten Hag spreading defensive lines with width while overloading the flanks, gaps in space would open up for players sitting in space over the top, which midfielders and defenders could use to their advantage. With such impressive stats and numbers, it is difficult to understand how this squad was unable to make it past the group stage of the Champions League and the quarterfinals of the Europa League. However, it should be understood that although Ajax made it look easy, they played an extremely risky style of play. Against the most elite competition, they were mediocre compared to the standard they were capable of, dropping crucial matches. Ten Hag could not have asked for a better holding midfielder in Alvarez. However, the position is risky for even the most elite players. One false step, one lapse in concentration could be a potential issue. This is because elite opponents have elite attackers who only require a few opportunities and touches to make you pay. If caught off balance, if the opposition is able to operate in space, conceding a goal is almost inevitable. Thus the holding midfielder must stop the threat immediately, by any means necessary. His positionality is crucial in the center of the pitch, and if he is caught asleep, the back two are highly compromised. Thus, it was imperative for players to choose their dribbles wisely and avoid interceptions, for if they did, the consequences could be game-changing. The task is made even more difficult if a teammate gives the ball away in a highly vulnerable zone, in which case a recovery tackle was almost impossible. The location of the turnover, and the quality of the opposition dictated the severity of the outcome, as Ajax frantically made up ground in pursuit of the ball. Playing spread also leaves you thin and vulnerable when off balance. This was the Achilles heel of an excellent squad, and at the business end of all continental competitions, it was their undoing. They would chase the ball when playing against opposition that was equally adept at controlling the ball and flow of play, in an effort to compensate for the spread. Ten Hag also occasionally played a traditional 4-3-3 with a conventional center forward, with Lassana Frank Traoré. In the Burkina Faso national, He had a physical and instinctive finisher. The 19-year-old delivered 8 goals and 5 assists over 18 matches. The youngster increased his stock, with solid performances linking play in the attacking third. However, at his age, there aren't many who can hold the line as the sharp end of the trident. As exceptional as Tadic was, and continues to be, his skill set is varied, and he is not a traditional finisher. It would be a waste of his talent to keep him fixed, centrally. The Dutch giants were in the market for a traditional striker, but what type would fit into their system? Indeed, with proficient crossers at all areas of the pitch, a focal point striker or target man was the most sensible choice. They already played their center forward as a link player to run down the link and hold up play for the advancing line. Ajax's intelligence team would have been delighted when they discovered that Ivorian striker, Sebastian Haller was available in the January transfer window of 2021. As a recent addition to West Ham, and their record signing for €50 million, it was almost unheard of that they were willing to let him go, just a season and a half later. And Ajax was more than willing to shell out another record fee of €25 million for the striker. Such is the ability and the potential of a player who is now coming into his prime. In the 6'4" striker, they identified a big body who was a smooth and graceful mover. With excellent technical ability, he could operate between enemy lines, and receive the ball in crowded space, or with his back turned. His height and physicality make him a lock for most aerial duels, and he is a proficient finisher with multiple methods and techniques. When watching him play, it is difficult not to compare him to a fellow Ivorian legend. The target man striker has become unique to certain systems in today's game. However, given the right system, with the right players, a target man can be truly dominant. Haller's spell at West Ham is considered to be a disappointment by many, resulting in West Ham's willingness to take such a loss to sell him. However, as it turns out, the switch to the Eredivisie proved to be exactly what the striker needed, adapting to Ten Hag's system seamlessly. From a tactical perspective, his skill set brought a lot to Ten Hag's plans. He could play his 4-3-3 attack with a striker, while Tadic could continue working as a false nine, central attacking midfielder, and left winger. The focal point requirement was satisfied, providing Ten Hag substantially more firepower. Haller showed great promise, finishing third on the squad in goals with 11 goals, while adding 5 assists in only 19 matches played. He proved himself as a willing presser and tackler, with 16 ball-winning contributions. With a high work rate, he and Tadic paired well, combining to pin defenses in their zone. An injury to David Neres in November of 2020 was a major setback for Ajax and the Brazilian. As the club's record signing until the arrival of Haller, at €20 million, Neres had become a beloved member of Ajax for his silky skill and timely goals. However, not only did Haller replace him as the club's most expensive player, his arrival also completely changed the dynamic of the club. With a central presence, Tadic was now free to operate on the left flank. With Antony firmly rooted on the right wing, this meant that Neres, who was returning from an injury shortly after Haller arrived, had stiff competition upon his return. The natural solution was to play with 4 primary attackers to accommodate his growing class arsenal up front. The adaptation had to maintain width with his wingers, so the 4-3-3 attack became the 4-3-3 defensive system, with 2 holding midfielders instead of 1. This substantially lightened the load for Alvarez, who now had support available. When in control formation, the attack could then go to the familiar 3-3-4 or 3-4-3 or 2-3-5, with Alvarez as the holder in all formations. He now had reinforcements nearby, minimizing the impact of the counterattack. The intended, or unintended consequence of this switch provided Ten Hag with immediate solutions to the prior issues of his system. His fullbacks could still advance up the flanks. On the right, Antony could rotate into the right midfield position as the right back took the wing, acting as early and deep crossers, respectively. On the left, as Tadic began to command the left wing, this meant that Neres now had to re-establish himself in the lineup, resulting in split playing time with Antony on the right wing. The switch also reassigned the primary identities of his midfielders. However, given their varied skill sets, the fluidity of their positions remained the same. The only difference was that there was now a permanent presence in the central attacking midfielder role, who was the work with the center forward. In the 3-4-2-1, 3-2-5, and 3-5-2, the central attacking midfielder could also turn into the false 9, playing off the striker's shoulder, or by splitting the box with the striker with 2 up front, which accommodated for Tadic's skill set in its entirety. Lines could be maintained more efficiently, with balance at both tiers. With 2 players now central in an advanced role, central routes became more readily available. The attacking midfielder could drop into the midfield with Haller working as the lone operator in the space. The 6 central players could then work together to pin the opposing defense and overload the box with options, with a focal point in the box. Upon Haller's arrival, Ajax did not lose a single match in which he played. The success of the newly adopted system with a center forward set a new foundation for Ajax's modern outlook. Ultimately, Ajax ended the season with a comfortable hold on the Eredivisie title and the Dutch Super Cup. Despite the disappointment in continental competition, the young squad overachieved and continued Ajax's winning tradition. With a rotation of personnel in the new season, Ten Hag now had various options for systems. Depth was now required at attacking midfielder, and Steven Berghuis was brought in from rival Feyenoord for €5.5 million. Remco Pasveer was also brought in from Vitesse. Each player brought a veteran presence and leadership to a young group, whose average age is now 27 years old, 2 years older than last year. There are imperceivable differences between the 4-3-3 defensive system and the 4-2-3-1. However, given a manager's intentions, these differences can become substantial. In the traditional 4-3-3, defend, the width is supplied by the wingers. The key piece in this system is the central attacking midfielder, who has a crucial zone of space to control. If he were to lose the ball, he has reinforcements behind him to prevent being caught off balance. The system requires width from the wingers and fullbacks, or solely the wingers, depending on the personnel. Each forward has a great deal of space to work in. With defensive support behind him, they can demonstrate their vision, passing, dribbling, and finishing. The extra presence in the midfield allowed for Mazraoui to vacate his flank, giving the space to Antony. This was a key change, as Antony has been lethal as an early crosser and facilitator on the right wing. Since May of last year, his market value has gone from 20 to 35 million, and it is sure to increase substantially at his next valuation. The 4-2-3-1 is essentially a 4-3-3 defend, with wide players that take on multiple identities. They can remain wide, or rotate internally and participate as midfielders, providing assistance to the attacking midfielder. Noussair Mazraoui was the ideal player in this role, and maintained his post on the right with Antony, and his performances have contributed to his steadily increasing market value. With lines available at 2 to 3 tiers, in the attacking third, more emphasis is placed on short and medium range passes, due to their players being in closer proximity. This is reflected by the stats in the group stage of the Champions League. In 2020-2021, Ajax attempted 1,210 short passes, 1,043 of which were completed. From medium range, they attempted 1,400, 1,183 of which were made. This season they attempted and completed more short and medium range passes with 1,324 made of 1,475, and 1,466 of 1,608, respectively. With a focal point in place, Ajax has attempted substantially more crosses this season. As the leader in crosses in his second straight campaign, Dusan Tadic contributed 33 crosses to the club's total of 103, compared to their total last year, of 75. With his broad skill set, he has made the left flank his, ousting David Neres from the position. With his attacking four firmly set, the 25-year-old Brazilian was not content with helping from the bench, and thus was transferred to Shakhtar for 20 million in the January transfer window of this year. On the right flank, Antony and Mazraoui continued working in weak side space, with verticality available through the lines, and crossing options available. The two also contributed 16 and 12 crosses, respectively. Sebastian Haller has also benefited from the switch to the 4-2-3-1. The striker sits as the cream of the crop at the most elite level. The Big Ivorian has demonstrated his technical qualities and finishing, playing as a target man through and between the lines. Ryan Gravenberch, Davy Klaassen and Steven Berghuis remain fluid in the midfield. With Gravenberch as the most athletic of the three, his role was all-encompassing. He leads the team in successful dribbles, with 10 of 17, while leading in defensive pressures, sitting third with 93. The youngster is at the cusp of being considered as a world-class box-to-box player and may not be with Ajax for much longer. The veterans Klaassen and Berghuis have also been stellar since the switch. Each player earned 12 caps for the Netherlands in 2021 alone, the most of their careers. With Alvarez remaining as the holder, the three can take on multiple identities all over the neutral and attacking thirds. Berghuis, or Gravenberch, also serve as the right wing facilitator with Antony, when the right back has defensive responsibilities, as right-footed crossers. Vice-captain, Daley Blind is a solid, veteran presence at the back as the center back. Lisandro Martinez has also continued to fulfill his potential as an assured presence in the back. He has maintained astounding passing numbers, leading the team in progressive distribution, as the club's main direct threat, with 1,042 progressive yards. The four defenders lead the team in tackles, with Martinez, Mazraoui, Blind, and Timber as the team's elite tacklers. Jurrien Timber's performances have him drawing interest from several top clubs around Europe. As he continues to dominate the space on the backline, it will be interesting to see how he continues to develop as a defender. In typical Ten Hag fashion, three of the players within his system, all under the age of 25, are now worth a combined €85 million, which is sure to rise. This is an exceptional feat. To develop and continue to fulfill the potential of two consecutive groups of players, filled with potentially generational talents. This is a further testament to the brilliance of the Ajax youth system and their consistency. The Dutch Giants cruised through their group stage without a single loss, conceding a mere 5 goals, with 20 goals for in the group stage. They generated 187 shot-creating actions, with 32 goal-creating actions. Against them, a mere 117 and 9 respectively, with 22 goals scored, 7 conceded. To put this into perspective, when compared with the most elite clubs in Europe, Ajax holds their own, quite comfortably. Erik Ten Hag has redeveloped Ajax into a formidable opponent. Like their mythological namesake, they loom colossally over their opponents, but who will be their Achilles? Recent stumbles have called their title hopes into question. However, the season's scenario presents a test that the squad is equal to. This moment has been the culmination of tremendous management and players fulfilling their potential. However, with his previous track record and names on the team sheet, Ten Hag and Ajax are likely to overachieve, as they always do.